We got a Monday night game with the Pittsburgh Steelers and the New York Football Giants, and we're going to break this down for fantasy football. We're going to look at the starts. We're going to look at the sits. We're going to look at the guys that could be sneaky right here, right now, while analyzing this matchup. But before we do, you need to click that subscribe button right now, because after the game, we're going to do a recap, and then tomorrow, we're going deep on the waiver wire. 20 deep plus at wide receiver, 20 deep plus at running back, and then Wednesday, we're going to do it all again, and then in between that, we're going to do deep dives on all the trending players, so you know who to pick up by deep diving the analytics and situations. Click that button, stop missing out. Ric Flair's watching. Do not disappoint Ric Flair. But it's time to dig into this matchup here. Steelers, Giants. We got a 36 over-under set on DraftKings, set by Vegas. And that's a lower implied point total. So they're saying this could be a low-scoring game, which we have possibilities of that trending that way in this matchup, because the Giants has been in some matchups this year where they can't even score 10 points. Or they may score hardly at all, but it's not enough to get the job done when it comes to getting fantasy production spread among all the pass catchers and running backs. The Steelers, we got Russell Wilson cooking now. It looked good. We were more explosive getting the ball downfield last week. That could push things. That'll at least push it closer to that 36 point total. There's a chance we could surpass it. How would that look like? That would be Russell Wilson cooking. That would be George Pickens bringing in some deep balls. And that pushes the Giants to push it downfield with Malik Nabers, and Danny Dimes is rocking and rolling going into this game. And that could allow the point totals to go up for this matchup. That being said, when you look at these two quarterbacks, when I think of fantasy football lineups, I don't think many people are looking to start them. I don't think many people will have Daniel Jones in their lineup. And I don't think many people will have Russell Wilson in their lineup. However, if you're looking at DraftKings, I would look at big tournaments, and I would be looking at diversifying between lineups, and I would not be just setting one lineup for a big tournament. So I'd be setting up stacks with both quarterbacks, which is kind of obvious when you got one game like this. But when it comes to both quarterbacks, from a micro standpoint, I could see both of them pushing okay fantasy production. I can't see really top-end QB1 results. 300 passing yards may not be happening for either quarterback. I could see about 220-yard range to 250 range for both, and a couple of touchdowns. I could see Daniel Jones going off the rocker here, maybe throwing some picks like we've seen before. But if we can dial into Malik Nabers, and if Russell Wilson can cook, then Daniel Dimes will have to push it. If Russell Wilson doesn't cook, and things get a little sketchy in this matchup, and things get slower paced, this could be a game where you don't want either quarterback. I don't see many fantasy managers starting these quarterbacks in their lineups. They started quarterbacks from yesterday, but you're watching these quarterbacks because you got other players on these teams, like Devon, Singletary, and Tyrone Tracy. So running backs can score fantasy points on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Last 3 games are a little bit above league average. However, that is buoyed by Breece Hall. Strip that away, they're a little bit below league average when it comes to allowing fantasy points to the main running back. The thing about the Giants is they don't have a main running back. Last time they about split the opportunities evenly between Devon, Singletary, and Tyrone Tracy. There's a chance the Giants are going to be playing from behind, and Tracy might be getting more work in the passing game. Overall, I like Tracy better as a runner. I think you guys all know that. I think he's more explosive, more fun to watch. From a micro standpoint, when looking at this game, it could break either way. It could be the guy that gets the touchdown. It could be just split up enough where you don't want either running back because the Steelers are the Steelers. You're really treading water here when you're looking at them versus the other running backs in this matchup. When you're looking at Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris, they might be more in an advantageous situation. Tracy could pop one loose. That's the thing about him, and that could be on any given play. So when you start him, you're betting on that. You're also betting on the Giants being behind and having to throw it a little bit and using him more in the passing game. You're betting on that. And that speed could pop one for you. But also what could go against you is this game script being gritty, being low scoring. That's what Vegas is saying. and the ball's not moving too much where these running backs are not getting as many red zone looks as you want. It's also against the defense, like you're seeing that top-tier production. You're seeing good production from some of the other running backs they went up against, like Rico Dowdle, Alexander Madison, Jonathan Taylor, Dobbins, Williams. You're seeing okay production throughout the season. So one of these running backs could give you a 10 spot. I would put my chips on Tyrone Tracy. I'd probably have more of him on my rosters anyways. That's probably who I'd have to start. Devon Singletary could luck into the end zone work. He could be getting enough volume where he could luck into fantasy production. And it's just a tricky game script between the two. But we're looking at Malik Nabers, Wan'Dale Robinson and company. Malik Nabers is going to get volume. And I think it's going to be years before you think about benching him. As long as he's healthy on the field, you're going to be starting him no matter what. It is what it is. It's like a Justin Jefferson. It's like a Jamar Chase. He's getting all that volume. He's a player that you're just going to start and roll with. And it doesn't matter if it's a good game or bad game. He could score horribly, but you're still looking at that from the rearview mirror saying, yeah, I'd still do the same thing because it's Malik Nabers. Wan'Dale Robinson is the tricky part of this matchup here because the Steelers' defense, they're about league average when it comes to allowing fantasy points to wide receivers, but they're more bend and not break. So you're definitely seeing Malik Nabers getting that workload, getting thrusted out there, and Wan'Dale Robinson might collect targets in the short game. That being said, for him to be fantasy relevant here, we need exponential volume. We need to break one loose. We need to pop one or get into the end zone. The odds of the last two, getting into the end zone and popping one, is decreased against this defense. So we're hoping he hits volume underneath where he can rock it up with like 10 targets or so and get you enough fantasy production. When you're looking at him versus the other ancillary wide receivers, because you're not starting him over George Pickens or Malik Nabers, you pretty much got to roll with it. You already made this decision going into Monday, but that's the output. There is volume to be had here. We got to pop one loose. We got to get into the end zone. Compared to other matchups, the odds are kind of decreased, but there is still some chance in the realm of possibilities that he's a good start for you. Just the odds are a little bit more iffy due to the matchup, due to the over-under. Malik Nabers, you're just always going to do it. You're going to do it to like 20-30 or so. That's what you're going to be doing. But you're looking at Theo Johnson. Not many of you guys are going to start him because not many of you guys have been starting him. It is National Tight End Week. That being said, he could surprise you. However, the targets are concentrated to Malik Nabers and Wan'Dale Robinson. Those are the two main starts people are looking at from the Giants, and people are just picking their poison with the running backs. But if you want to, it's a gamble with tight end. I'm not going to really encourage it too much, but tight end's going to tight end. Looking at the running backs here for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren. Jaylen Warren's getting more volume by the week. I would not be surprised if he catches a few dump-offs here, becomes fantasy relevant, or scores a touchdown, or gets more opportunities than expected. I expect Najee Harris to get a lot of work up the gut. I expect him to get some opportunities here as well. I look for both these running backs to be okay. I don't look for them to go over the moon. I don't look for them to be crazy in production. I look for them to eat into each other. I look for this to be an okay matchup for them. The Giants are about league average when it comes to allowing fantasy points to running backs. They allow 26 to Saquon, but after that, they're pretty tight. They're allowing like 15 or less, and it's just Aaron Jones and Saquon Barkley breaking that 15-point threshold here. So imagine we're probably going to get one of these guys getting about 12, another one getting 9-ish. Maybe we cross the goal line, some of those short carries. Maybe we get 2 touchdowns from one of them. Maybe Jaylen Warren gets a couple extra dump-offs. Maybe something like that. Maybe we get both of them scoring in the 12 range. But I look for this to be tame, but one of these running backs to be okay. Maybe the other one okay as well, but I look for the upside to be pretty tame in this matchup. I do not see them busting either one of them. Well, one of them might bust due to them sharing the workload. But when you're looking at Jaylen Warren, it's not like you're starting him ahead of studs. You're starting him more out of desperation. And Najee Harris has been getting it up the guts. So Najee might be getting that workload to where he's more consistent and it might be okay. Jaylen might surprise you. He might have a little bit more of a floor here, a lower floor than compared to Najee. But also, I look for him to be okay. I look for both running backs to be okay. I don't look at them as must starts. I don't look at them as sneaky starts. I don't look at them as actual sits. I just look at them as being okay. And an okay could be a sit for you. An okay could be a start for this guy. I'm looking at George Pickens. I don't think you're ever going to bench him for the rest of the season as long as he's healthy on the field. He's getting a lot of targets per game. 5+ a game in most games. The low point's been like 4. He's had a couple low points, but Russ was cooking up a lot of George Pickens. And I think you're going to roll with George Pickens and as many matchups as possible. The Giants are around league average when it comes to allowing fantasy points to wide receivers. There has been games where they were just blown out. So fantasy production being racked up by the wide receivers has been curtailed a little bit due to the game script. That could happen today. But the amount they've been blown out in those games, week 1 and last week, is very hard to predict considering how bad they were at moving the football. However, when you're looking at George Pickens, there's no way you're not starting him every game going forward due to the production, workload, targets downfield. Some games it's going to hit hard, some games it's not. And you're looking at the top wide receivers in every game against the Giants, and they're doing okay. You're probably going to get okay at the floor or bonkers at the top. You're going to be okay with George Pickens, maybe even some top-tier production here. Pat Freiermuth, Darnell, Washington. Pat Freiermuth's going to get the targets here. He's going to get the opportunities. He'll be getting some workload. Darnell Washington's always a sneaky bet. It is National Tight Ends Week. And Russell Wilson was looking his way a little bit last week, so something to pay attention to. His size and just athleticism is immense. Freiermuth is the mainstay. When you're looking at tight ends, they're very volatile. They're very up and down. You already have this decision made here. You're not benching Freiermuth for Theo Johnson. You might go Darnell Washington and Theo Johnson, but you have to be in a crazy deep league. And honestly, it's a dice roll. I just set your start-sit dilemma with that. It's a dice roll. Just pick your poison with that. But that is the matchup here on Monday night. We got a fun one. It could be very controversial with some of these crazy players we got out here, especially with Danny Dimes on the rock. Let me know what you think in the comments below. We'll be back later tonight with a recap. I want to thank you for watching. Catch you on the next video.